All right, good evening, everyone. I'd just like to welcome everybody in the gallery and all the town staff that have joined us from the administration. Thanks very much for being here tonight. I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting for the town of Didsbury for Tuesday, March 10th. Well, it's still 6 o'clock, so it's good. Perfect timing. Item 2 on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda from our last meeting. There was one minor change, for the adoption of the agenda for this meeting. And I will apologize, I'm a little bit ill, so my brain is not operating at 100% tonight, which is why I have the super voice on as well. Anyway, so apologies if I slip up once or twice this evening. The adoption of the agenda for tonight's meeting, and it will be as amended because we do have one minor change to the closed items in the meeting. Item 12.3 has been deleted, so what is listed on your agenda as item 12.4 will now be item 12.3. Well, if you want to...
I move that council adopt the agenda as amended.
Excellent. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, item 3 on the agenda is delegations and presentations, and we have one of those tonight. But before they come up, I know Councillor Quantz has just a comment that he wants to make.
Yeah, I'd like to ask our CEO for my options for conflict of interest. I was co-chair of the committee last summer when I wrote the updated application that is before us today. I have no pecuniary, financial benefits from this project, but since it may be seen as a conflict for me to participate in the discussion, I am willing to leave or follow the options that you would provide for me for conflict of interest.
Sure, Norm. Councillor Quantz, under the MGA, under section 172.1, I would say sub 2 applies if a councillor discloses a conflict of interest, or I would argue in your case a perceived conflict, not a real legitimate one. You may, if present, do any one or more of the following. You may abstain from voting on any question relating to the matter. You may abstain from discussion of the matter, and you may leave the room in which the meeting is being held until discussion and voting on the matter are concluded. And we would note that in the minutes, which of those you chose to do. So you, no matter what, if you're feeling there's a conflict, then sitting quiet and not voting, the first 2 would probably flow from there. If you wish to also leave the room during the presentation, you may do so, but are not necessarily required to do so. Not in this circumstance, I don't think.
Okay. So I'll choose to stay, shut up, and, not say anything and not vote. Is that okay?
Silence is gold.
Thank you, Councillor Quantz. Appreciate that. If I could call Dave Jones and the rest of his committee up to present their materials. Thank you.
Well, good evening, and thank you for inviting us to present our project. I'll introduce myself. Gord Leeson is my name. I'm retired now. I did a lot of real estate in Didsbury with Morris Meadows and Deer Coulee Ranch, so my heart's here, but I grew up in Didsbury. My dad had the hardware store where Ooh La La is now, so still my roots are here, even though I live just 3 miles out of town. I'd like to also introduce Dave Jones. He's a member of the curling club, part of our committee, and Brian Clazy behind me is also a member, and Ryan Murky, the president, apologizes for not being here. He had a meeting tonight, so he wasn't able to be here. So anyway, curling has always been an important part of life in Didsbury for as long as I can remember, but due to age and loss of mobility, some curlers are forced to retire earlier than necessary. Brian Dingman found that he was no longer able to curl, but his friend Carson Schultz came up with a brilliant idea. Why couldn't we use a modified curling broom to push the stone similar to shuffleboard? It worked, but Carson wasn't done. He went to work and invented a sure shot stick designed to push, rotate, and release the stone on delivery. The seed was planted. Then others wanted to play, so rules had to be created, and when using the stick for curling, the name of Sterling was born right here in Didsbury. We've even received a letter from the Canadian Curling Association congratulating Didsbury, saying the town of Didsbury can take great pride in calling itself the home of Sterling. Sterling is not only played across Canada, but it's grown to where it's now played in the United States, across Europe, as well as Australia and New Zealand. Just knowing that we are the home of Sterling is not enough as far as I'm concerned. We need to tell the world where it all started, so I come up with a plan. I met with Doug Menard, who is the president of Train Oilfield, and shared my idea with him. I told him what I would like to do is to build the world's largest Sterling stone. Doug thought this was a great idea. We then discussed just how we could build it, using two 10-foot diameter steel tank ends, welding them together to create the body, and mounting it on top of a 10-foot steel pedestal as a base. A handle would be added to the top, and a 25-foot sure-shot Sterling stick would be attached to the handle. Doug said that he could get a deal on materials, and he even offered to haul the bulk tank ends from where they are constructed in Edmonton to Didsbury for free. He also offered to do the work at cost, which would be a great help in keeping the price down. The town has suggested 2 locations, but everyone's favorite by far is the area where the Lions sign is located just below Aspen Lodge at the entrance of town. All that would be required from the town is the approval of location, as well as site preparation and assistance with installation. Now, there are tours that travel Alberta, making stops at Vegreville to see the Ukrainian Easter egg, Glendon to see the world's largest pierogi, Vulcan to see the spaceship, and of course, they wouldn't want to miss stopping at Didsbury to see the world's largest Sterling stone. Heck, we could even make it into the Guinness World Book of Records for Didsbury having the world's largest Sterling stone. We don't want to miss this perfect opportunity to promote our town and to tell the world about our claim to fame. Thank you. If anybody has any questions, please fire away and ask Dave or myself. Dave or myself will try to answer for you.
I've spoken to you about this project in Astor. Did I understand that the only obligation that you're asking from the town is the piece of land, prepping the site, and actually doing the install?
Yes, yes.
And is there sort of an amount of money that has been calculated?
For the construction of the stone itself, we're looking at around the $50,000 mark to build it. 48 to be exact. We've got to our calculation, but of course things change, metal costs change, and so on. But anything you could add, Dave?
Basically, for site preparation is the approval of the site, and then there's some ground testing required. Engineering be done on our side along with the town to make sure it's according to specs, and that because we're talking when you're talking the top end is going to be about 40 feet in the air, and that, so there just has to be specifics. We need just more or less the site, and then sit down, if it gets approved, sit down with your engineering team to decide, what ground stability study or that would be required, and just to help out on that side of things. We still have our engineering that we would do with the company to get it planned ahead of time, and that to make sure things are in accordance with permits and everything else that comes with it.
Thank you.
The bottom portion, I guess below the stick portion, how tall would that be off the ground? Approximately?
We want it to be at least 10 feet off the ground.
Okay.
Basically, if it's that high, you can't climb it, because once you get up and around it, it'd be a lot safer.
We're talking just the base would be 10 feet. So I'm talking just from the bottom of the handle, basically, what the height is.
From there to there,
Yeah.
I'd say probably about 30 feet.
30 feet. Okay.
I'm guessing at it, just thinking back at the bottoms of tanks of vessels that I looked at in the past.
I'm thinking there's probably gonna be more than just site prep involved in that.
So
Yeah.
Wind load considerations and.
we're feeling about 10 foot from the base to the bottom of it
From the
is
ground.
about what we're looking at. Yeah, just so that people can't climb it, and graffiti is the other thing we're concerned with.
Right, no, for sure. Yeah, I'm just thinking from a cost perspective,
Yep,
what's gonna be involved, and it would probably require a poured concrete base and steel rods.
exactly, yeah.
So,
Yeah, we already talked with that.
okay. All right. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
I would like to move the council thank Mr. Leeson for his presentation and accept this as information, and
It'll be up to
I
you.
guess it will be deliberated later. But, thank you guys for bringing this up to us.
The other thing we hadn't discussed, of course, is the cost. And that's something that I've been asked how much we've raised so far, and I said not a darn thing. And the reason being is we haven't had a place to put it or the approval of the town. So once
A
that
site.
happens, yeah, site location. So
Site location.
that's our next project. So I think it's pretty cool. I just hope you guys think it's pretty cool.
If we're done, can I say one thing? Thanks, Mayor Little, for coming to our Alberta Championships and coming out and giving a speech for the guys. It was really well respected. The club did a hell of a job putting off the provincials there. It surprised Curling Alberta and that, and I think we showed the town it was well worth the effort. And I love the staff for taking the video and putting it online. It was great. I thank you very much for the help.
So I was very happy to be there, and I was more than happy to learn something about a sport that I knew nothing. So
Yeah.
it was educational, and I think you guys seem to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
To that point, we had the pleasure of meeting recently. I volunteered over
Yeah.
the stick curling. It was the first I'd seen of it. As someone new to this sport, retired, I didn't realize how big a deal it is or how cool it is. And I guess obviously we're not making a decision tonight, but I appreciate just the sheer amount of work you guys have put into this whole project thus far, and it's really great to see.
Yeah. Thank you. It was great having you there, and yeah, it really helped. Thank you.
Just redo that, Kurt.
Okay, we'll redo that.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I move the council thank Mr. Leeson for his presentation and accept it as information.
Excellent, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Thanks again, gentlemen, appreciate it. Okay, excuse me.
And Norm, you keep quiet.
You did
Thank you, Norm.
exceptionally. All right. So, item 4 on the agenda is now the adoption of the minutes from our previous meeting. I'll ask for a motion on that, please.
So do you want to go ahead? I move the council accept the minutes as presented.
I'll open the floor to any comments or questions. No? No? Excellent. All right, I'll call for a vote then. All in favor of adopting the minutes? Opposed? Excellent. Motion is carried. Thank you. All right. Item 6 on the agenda is the CAO report. I take it everybody's had a chance to review it. Should we just call for a motion, or does anybody have any questions?
Comment.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Sorry, just checking my notes here. You noted in the offsite levy section, more to come. I just wanted to comment and say I liked reading what I saw, and I'm looking forward to seeing more on that. It was very interesting, and I wanted to keep reading it. And then a very quick question related to the public engagement. I I'm curious, the notes and the workbooks and information, do we have a timeline on when those will be like available, published, through what medium? Just any info on that?
Roughly during the latter part of April or early May, I hope to have all of that. And it's not as though it would necessarily take that long to get it out if we just worked exclusively on that, but I'm just trying to allow time to allow staff to work on some other things, because some of those staffers are going to now be working on some public event planning as well. But yeah, we get that out in May to the public, late April, early May. So I hope, anyway.
Yeah.
That was it. Any other comments, questions? No? Okay, I'll ask for a motion on that then, please. Will?
I would move that council accept the Chief Administrative Officer report for March 10th, 2026 as information.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion is carried. Thank you. That takes us to section 7, which is bylaws and policies. Item 7.1, which is admin 001 policy development guidelines. Looks like we are going to be rescinding an old guideline, or old policy, I should say, pardon me, to be replaced with COUN 007-24. Excellent. Everybody's had a chance to review. I would ask that the CEO provide a little bit of an explanation before we proceed as to what is changing as far as policy approvals go.
Well, under the new policy, the following principles are being set out. That council is approving governance policies and procedures that establish governance, direction, service level, delivery, programs, and so on. And they guide and set parameters for us. But myself or my designate approves administrative procedures, which are operational, related to staffing, or administrative in nature, which is usually pretty standard in operating guidelines. But the caveat is that the administrative procedures that are approved must align with council policies and legislation. Am I missing anything, Jocelyn? No.
And this changes how all policy decisions were made by council in the past, and now some would not be.
Essentially, there's a lot of power going back to council for approving the policies of the municipality. Yes, the procedures that need to follow sometimes from those policies that you would approve are going to be sort of fleshed out by the admin on how things will unroll within a certain department that's affected by the policy. But this is the one to do with the CEO directives, Joss, or is this a different one? Okay. Do you want to elaborate further for the benefit of council as the drafter of said policy?
Yep, thank you. Through the chair. Administration here isn't exactly requesting council to adopt anything tonight. So that COUN 007-24, this is a policy that was actually approved in 2024. So these guidelines that we're asking council to consider rescinding are kind of running in line currently with those. So these guidelines would currently be considered a procedure under 007-24. So we're not exactly asking council to change a system that's currently in place. We're just asking to kind of remove that procedural element that council's established in an old policy back from 2019? 14. So we're asking council to consider removing those so that we can make it an administrative procedure and update those guidelines to the current standards that we currently practice.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. Any other comments?
Would it change then council's decision making? So the council in the old one, council had nothing to do with the administrative procedures at all, and the new one, same thing, or is it taking that away from council?
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you for the question through the chair. So in the guidelines, so in the old one that we're asking council to rescind, it also gave the CAO the authority to establish procedures as well. But if you take a look through the guidelines, it has things like the the type of font that we're going to use in our policies and the naming convention that we use and even the style of header that we use in it. So those are the kind of things that we're trying to go away from. Council still adopts council policies. Administration is only implementing procedures and administrative policies for things within the scope of the policies, bylaws, and strategic plans that council has already established. So yeah. Council wouldn't be delegating any additional authority to the CAO, which outside of that which has already been established.
I think I'm clear, yeah. Okay, if I could get a motion on this, then that would be great.
I move to rescind ADMIN 001 Policy Development Guidelines.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried, thank you. That takes us to item 7.2, which is COUN 008-26 Council Technology Policy, which I understand is just an update, essentially. Has everybody had a chance to review it and have any questions on the changes? No? Okay, I'll just ask for a motion then. That was straightforward too, so.
There's two motions.
Yes, that's correct.
I'll give the first motion. Move to rescind COUN 008-22 Council Technology Policy.
Excellent, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Or if you just wanted to continue.
And move to adopt COUN 008-26 Council Technology Policy as presented.
Excellent. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, this takes us to item 7.3, which is the Public Space Neutrality Bylaw 2026-08. I think we're all familiar with this, fairly familiar with this. I'll open up the floor to debate. Go ahead, Mike.
I want to read what I've got here. I will vote in opposition to this proposed bylaw until I see enough compelling evidence to show we need it. I'm not seeing the necessity nor the short or long-term benefits. I believe it distracts us from the council's current goodwill of building the core of what makes our community the choice for many as a place to grow and thrive. And some context that helps inform my decision. A municipality is for the benefit of all residents. We have plenty of laws that help inform residents and those who visit on what is decent, orderly, and beneficial for our town to thrive. We are not known, nor should we become known, for tolerating bullying. Our town has worked hard, very hard, to be accepting of each other's differences with grace and love. The people of this community are the best antidote for those who may choose to misuse public spaces as a tool for prejudice, bigotry, or racism. Along with my colleagues, I'm sure, I support freedom of speech and peaceful protest as we outdo the negative with good. I believe the intent of this bylaw is to prevent public spaces from being used in a divisive way, but I don't think we need this type of bylaw to keep that from happening. Our people have been, are, and will continue to use their power to stand up and speak up for a caring, supportive, and goodwill community which will continue to foster a thriving atmosphere. And this is the context for my decision to vote no for this.
Thanks, Councillor Quantz. I would ask that you reserve your vote until we actually vote, though.
I'm just indicating that would be my vote.
I've got a few things that I wanted to say on this one, and I decided to write it down to make sure I made got everything carefully and clearly articulated. So apologies for reading off the page, but I've maintained the same position on this proposed bylaw since it was first raised months ago, and that position has only been reinforced by community feedback this week. I believe this bylaw to be entirely unnecessary. I am willing to give the benefit of the doubt and assume the intentions behind it were good, but good intentions unfortunately do not excuse poor outcomes. From what I can see, this legislation offers no meaningful benefit to the people of Didsbury. Instead, I'm concerned it broadcasts a message of exclusion to our residents, to the businesses we want to attract, and to our neighbors across Alberta. I was elected to listen to this community, and from what I've heard from dozens of taxpayers in the last 5 days, is that they're frustrated with this proposal. The volume of formal correspondence that I and we as a council have received this week alone is staggering. To me, the feedback is clear. A broad cross-section of our community sees this as detrimental and a blemish on our town's reputation. Beyond the social cost, to consider the governance side, I believe that this bylaw is a solution that is in search of a problem. As I understand it, we already have safeguards in place, and council already maintains the final authority over what happens in municipal land. In my opinion, a policy is a tool for management. This bylaw, however, does feel like a political statement, and one that I do not endorse. From a practical standpoint, I find it difficult to understand the need for a bylaw to prevent town staff from doing the work that council hasn't authorized, as it seems like an administrative absurdity. In my view, it's simply not appropriate for a town council to be in the business of defining and policing a concept as subjective as neutrality, especially when such an ambiguous term can easily be weaponized to create conflict for council staff and residents alike. Ultimately, I was elected to represent the interests of our community, and I urge my fellow councillors to consider the vote they make at the end of this.
Thanks, Will. Any other comments?
Thanks, Will and Norm, for your reasonings and your viewpoints. I've heard in the last couple of days, and the public engagement has gone well. Hearing from some people in the gallery that are here today, and emails. When you speak of ambiguity and its possible weaponization, and I don't see how neutrality is weaponizing anything, because we already have set symbols for a town. The way that I look at it, and this is my opinion, so I can't speak for anybody else, is how I see a flag. How I see a flag, it denotes authority and territory. So as a town of 5,000 people, with people from many walks of life, when special interest group, whatever they may be, possibly could put up their flag, and the only reason I think this has come to town is because we've seen examples and trends across this country and across the world. You can go to Parliament Hill, there's flags that don't represent necessarily all Canadians. We have a Canadian flag, we have an Albertan flag, we have a town of Didsbury flag, that denote the people that live here. But when you put up a flag of a specific group in a public space that the whole community pays for and says, this is Didsbury, it's saying, and it might not say to certain people, oh, this just shows that we are, we support these people. That's great. But it could also say, oh, we agree with all of their lifestyle choices, everything politically that they go along with, right? So that is what I see in a flag. When I see a flag in someone's house, I can say that's their private property. This is what they believe. They have the freedom to do so because it's private property. But if I go to Parliament Hill in Canada, that's my country as much as everybody else here in this room. But the government has chosen to take one specific group of people and say, all of Canada agrees with this. We obviously know that we don't all agree with this, but when you put that as your flag on your parliament, that's what in effect you're saying. That's the way I see flags. So it denotes territory, it denotes authority. And people wouldn't use flagpoles if they didn't. That's how I see flags, and that's why I will vote
Well, I won't say how I'll vote until the vote's over.
Thank you, Troy. Any other comments?
I'll be fairly brief. I think from the very beginning, I spoke of not needing a bylaw, that you know, there's traffic laws, there's proclamations, there's all of that. So I've listened to all of you. You all have valid arguments for and against, and I don't see a need for the bylaw. I don't think it's necessary. Thanks.
Anything further? Bob? Yeah, go ahead.
Just speaking in regards to this bylaw, I believe in the democratic process. I believe that everything should be heard, everything should be said. I believe that we need to look at how this works, and we have first readings, second readings, and so on. So I believe that there's the democratic process in place. I also state that if this is not a bylaw, there is no current policy, there is no current bylaw, so then the decision would be now put on to town staff or the town council to make a decision on hanging a flag for anyone, painting the crosswalks for anyone. That decision would then come to us or the town to make that decision. This proposed bylaw would make it that there is no decision to be made because nothing else can be flown or painted on those crosswalks.
Any further? Erwin? No. I have something I prepared. I'll read it, and I think it's more of a clarification for everyone, so that anybody that might be watching online and anybody in the gallery maybe understands a little bit more about what is actually being proposed, because I've seen posts on social media, I've seen a lot of hyperbole about the proposed bylaw, and there seems to be a lot of misinformation. So I want to start by clarifying what the proposed bylaw does. The proposal is quite narrow in scope. It only applies to town-owned flagpoles, publicly owned spaces, and the design of crosswalks maintained by the town. Excuse me, I'm a little bit congested, I apologize. It does not limit the ability of individuals to display flags, celebrate causes, or express support for organizations or communities in any other way. Individual freedom of thought and expression are pillars of Canada's Constitution, and we are not trying to limit those. For example, if a community event wished to display flags associated with a cultural celebration or special gathering, that could still happen. The proposed bylaw simply sets a consistent standard for town infrastructure and town property. Similarly, regarding crosswalks, the proposal maintains the standard white crosswalk design that is widely recognized across Canada and internationally. The primary reason for this is safety and consistency. While colorful and artistic crosswalks are visually appealing, the available research has not demonstrated that they improve pedestrian safety. In some cases, there's concern that they may interfere with pedestrian detection technology in new vehicles and may actually increase risk of pedestrian collisions. For these reasons, most jurisdictions continue to treat the traditional white crosswalk as the safest and most universally recognized option for different weather and lighting conditions. Beyond these technical considerations, there's a broader principle guiding this proposed bylaw: municipal neutrality. Municipal councils are nonpartisan bodies whose primary responsibility is delivering essential services and maintaining infrastructure for all of our residents. Our work includes roads, water, emergency services, recreation facilities, parks, and ensuring that town functions effectively day to day. Over time, in many municipalities, decisions about which flag should be raised or which causes should be presented in public infrastructure have become increasingly politicized. When those requests come before council, they can place elected officials in positions of choosing whose cause is recognized and whose cause is not. Excuse me. Those conversations can quickly become divisive and take attention away from the work residents expect their councils to focus on. The goal of the proposed bylaw is to remove council from that position entirely by establishing clear, consistent, standard. Council will not debate requests for special flag raisings or themed crosswalks. Instead, we can devote our full attention to the core responsibilities of municipal government, improving the everyday experience of everyone who lives here in Hawkesbury. It is also important to emphasize that this approach is intended to be fair and consistent for all residents. The bylaw does not single anyone out. Rather, it applies the same rules to everyone equally. By keeping municipal spaces neutral, we aim to ensure that town property remains welcoming to all residents regardless of their beliefs. Neutrality in municipal infrastructure does not mean people cannot express themselves or support the causes they care about, pardon me. In fact, the ability of individuals and organizations to do so freely is an important part of a healthy community. This bylaw simply draws a line between individual expression excuse me, and official municipal infrastructure, keeping the latter focused on serving everyone equally. Council will approach this proposal thoughtfully and with the intention of reducing potential conflict while strengthening our focus on service delivery. Our hope is that by establishing clear and consistent guidelines, we can avoid the kinds of disputes that have occurred in other communities and maintain a respectful civic environment. I know some of you have argued that this is a non-issue to date, and I honestly hope that that stays that way. But it doesn't mean that council shouldn't take proactive measures. After all, hope is not a plan. I want to thank everyone who has taken the time to share their views, whether in support or opposition. Engaged residents make for a stronger town, and your feedback helps inform our decisions. At the end of the day, our goal is simple: to ensure that our town government remains focused on providing services, maintaining safe infrastructure, and supporting a community where everyone feels respected. Thank you for my rather long speech. Any other points that anybody would like to raise? No? Okay, I'll ask for a motion then, please.
I move that council grant first reading to public space neutrality bylaw 2026-08.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
I move that council grant second reading to public space neutrality bylaw 2026-08.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Motion is also carried. Thank you very much. Absolutely, yeah.
I make a request to administration that the vote for this one be recorded for the minutes. Thank you.
You betcha.
Excellent. We just move right on?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. That takes us to section 8, which is business. Item 8.1 is 2026 campground operations. Everybody's had a chance to review this and is familiar with what we're talking about tonight? Yes? Okay, I'm going to open up the floor to debate, comments, questions now, and then we'll decide what the motion will be when we get to the end of that, if that makes sense. Anyone have any comments? Oh, sorry, pardon me, Kurt. I didn't see it. My apologies.
Just to confirm, so this proposal or request for proposal, we're putting the campground out the same as we did kind of last year because we're a little behind the, well, I don't know if we are or not, but we're looking for someone to step in like our previous operators did. That's what I'm taking from this, is that correct?
Well, you got a couple options that Craig has put together and a wild card that I threw in for him, just to be sure that number 4 that came out of my hand, not Craig's. But Craig, did you wanna walk him through the 3 and maybe just provide some guidance for council on this one? It is important that we get some clear direction tonight if possible, however, given the approaching season.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So part of the 2026 budget was a parks lead that was presented to council for consideration. That position wasn't filled during the budget process, and so we reevaluated the purpose of the campground and how to deliver the service. Just sort of looking at the options available. We got a caretaker, a lease, self-registration, and then I think there's dispersal of the campground as an option. But to deliver the service, sort of our normal high level of service, which is 24/7 on-site facilitation for visitors, is what we've done in the past. We've done that through caretaker contracts in the past, and way back in the day, I think we leased it out. So those two delivery models creates a fairly high level of service, on-site maintenance of the washroom facilities, care of the green spaces, making sure the garbages are clean and any questions are answered. Access to firewood is a side business that we encourage the caretakers to pursue. So those are sort of like the high level of service sort of options. Self-registration is predominantly what we see out in the national parks or in Alberta's parks out in the West Country, where you drive in, you throw your money in the slot and you pick a spot. This is a little bit more high tech. We've got an online registration software where people can go to and select their site and their stay, and they get their terms and conditions, and everybody's happy. That is a way to go. It's got probably the lowest level of service, doesn't have anybody on site to help anybody. If there's after hours check-ins, there's conflicts with people in other people's campsites, things like that, things that tend to pop up in a facility like this. There's no one around to help them out. So those are sort of the three delivery models, and then of course the sale of the asset. But in this case, I think given we got about a month and a half here to sort of find someone and get them organized enough to open up the campground for May 1st, we'd be suggesting a caretaker contract. We'd go out to market, hopefully find somebody close who's interested in camping for the summer, and helping us take care of our visitors. But that's kind of the delivery model that we would look to at this point.
I'd like to hear from everybody on their thoughts, I guess maybe just overall on the campground, and if you have any points you'd like to raise. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think to expedite make sure the campground is used this summer, I like that recommendation. But I would also like to see it debated a little bit further in detail that in terms of preparation for another year as to whether we choose one of the other options that are given as well, and partly to see how this goes. This goes with the current selection of a caretaker, and but have a discussion on it. Don't let this be the once and forever way of doing it. Is all I'm saying.
No? I agree.
I agree with Norm. I think we should, with the camping season right around the corner, I think we should have a caretaker lease it out for this term. But I think the council should really look at our costs on it and how we move forward, whether we maybe sell it or figure out a long-term lease on it to somebody else. And I agree with Norm. We should discuss this again sooner than later versus leaving it until a month before camping season again.
Will, go ahead.
I guess I'd love more information on what the usage is like. It mentions in here that historically, benefit of the model, on-site mediation and resolution, often challenges arise at the campground after hours. I'd love to have some information, I guess, on what the usage is like, how many people use the campground historically, if we have that data, and also how many conflicts were resolved by a staff on site, how many required calls to the police. I agree that in terms of a short-term decision, yes, we need to do, I ultimately agree with Norm on this, and as well that a more thought-out decision is required long-term, but I'd love just more information for that decision when the time comes.
Yeah, I would agree with what Councillor Stevens is saying. I think we have a solution right now, but we will need more collected data, historical data, to be able to make a decision, especially around the possibility of the sale. We would need more information to be able to make that kind of decision going forward.
Yeah, I think sounds like we're probably all aligned on what option we want to go ahead with, so I'll ask for a motion on that, but I do agree very strongly with everything that you all said, that I think we need to make an informed decision on this. I'm not really sure how I feel about the campground long term. It is the first thing that you see when you come into town, besides the church, and I'm not sure I enjoy that. Anyway, I'll ask for a motion, please. Thank you.
I move that we approve the release of a request for proposal to seek submissions for the Rosebud Valley Campground Caretaker Service contract for the 2026 camping season.
So, thank you, Norm. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. That takes us to item number 8.2, which is 2026 Roadworks award recommendation. So council approved 2 projects for mill and overlay in 2026. The 2 projects in question are the second phase of 15th Avenue and the final phase of 7th Avenue. The approved capital budget for the 2 projects was $425,000. The tender was posted in January and closed in February of this year. The town received a total of 8 submissions. I assume everybody's had a chance to review them. All right, I'll ask for anybody to open up the floor for debate. Yeah.
Just a question on terminology. Administration determined the most significant difference between the 2 top contractors was mobilization. Border paving was demonstratively lower. Just to clarify for my own sake, is mobilization how quickly they can do it or get to it, or what does that mean exactly?
Thank you for the question through the chair. So mobilization covers off all of the pre-project planning, the eco plan, traffic accommodation plan, getting the equipment to site, getting up the stops, the traffic signage, getting their trailers mobilized in, stuff like that. So it's basically the contractor coming to town and setting their stuff up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And was that the only factor that affected the blended scoring, how it sort of changed?
Yes, I'm going to go with yes. The reason why I'm hesitant to say yes definitively is that I didn't go into the detailed scoring, but when you have highly competent contractors, our scoring mechanism doesn't create a real finite 3-decimal placed assessment of whether that contractor was good or bad. We got first-class contractors in this part of the world with paving, and we're happy to work with any of them. So it really does come down to that lowest compliant price. So the part that made between Border Paving and Ruby Rock, it was only to do with price. Between Border Paving and TJ Paving, it has to do with their local experience in our town. So TJ Paving doesn't have a lot. They scored lower on that and a few other items. But when you got 2 top performing contractors like this, it really just does come down to price in our world.
Right, and it was maybe just a bit of curiosity on my part. I mean, it really didn't change. Border paving was at the top of the list in both instances, so just more of a curiosity thing for me. Okay, thank you. Norm?
And just a couple of a question. Does the hometown factor in with that formula, first of all? And secondly, what overages are allowed?
Thank you for the question through the chair. So local contractors, the way we do it is local experience. Because a contractor, we're not geographically isolating someone from being able to work in our town. What we do prefer is people who have worked in our town and are familiar with our soils. So that's the way we look at that. if there's a project that comes in, let's say has nothing to do with us, private contractors doing subdivision X, and contractor B comes in, crushes it. They could apply to work for us in a following tender package, explain to us that they've worked on our soils, they're experts in our dirt, and they would meet that metric. As far as what overages are allowed, none. I don't know how to answer that question.
Thank you, Craig.
Sorry. A follow-up to that second question. This is the part B.
Go ahead.
Can I do that? I thought that there was a percentage that's given in other contracts of like a 5% overages or something like that. I just wondered if that was a factor in this. I don't see any of those listed, but is that something that is done on these contracts or not? So, but if he said no,
You're
that's,
talking contingency,
pardon?
are you asking about contingency?
That's the word.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, and thank you for the question. I appreciate the clarification because overages make me nervous. But when it comes to contingency, yes, we do carry a 10% contingency in all our public tenders. Reasons for that are when we go to remove a certain amount of sidewalk, the panel neck to it gets damaged or it gets broken during the process. We'll extend the contract to include that panel too. So it allows us to deal with some of the unforeseens at the time of scoping that stops us from coming to you guys every 15, 20 bucks and saying we need to up the budget. So we do have a contingency in there and it sort of allows the project to move forward smoothly.
Thanks, Craig, and thanks for not coming to us for every 20 bucks. Appreciate that too. Go ahead, Kurt.
I'm gonna do a little bit of, I guess some of this is more question and some is things that I ended up conversing with different residents during the engagement. And so we have one on here that is a hometown contractor. I believe Ruby Rock would we consider them a hometown? So they're 5.92% higher. And for what it's worth, I tend to want to favor that contractor because that money stays in town. And when someone from another town comes in, they get paid and they take their money out of town. And I like the reinvestment in our town. I don't know what the tolerance is for, it's $20,000 on this project of close to $400,000 or $354,000. We're talking about an extra $20,000. And I tend to believe that the benefit of, when it's that close, keeping it in town is a value to us. The conversations that I had, the numbers seemed to be 3 to 4%. Most people were really comfortable, 3 or 4%. This is 5.92, but it's something I did want council to consider.
I'll let you go first then. How's that? Go ahead, Aaron.
I tend to agree with Kurt. I would say that Ruby Rock probably puts that 20 grand back into the community throughout the year in the rink, different things they sponsor, different hockey teams, baseball, golf. Throughout the town, like Kurt said, the money stays in the town then. So I tend to agree for 20 grand, I think most of that money's gonna stay in the town, that we spend more than bringing in an out-of-town contractor.
Listen, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think I can probably speak for everybody on this, that we would all prefer to keep it with a contractor in town if possible, but I'm not sure that that's necessarily possible, so I'll ask for a little bit of clarification on that, as well intentioned as it is. Craig, if you could maybe elaborate a little bit on that process for everyone so that we understand how that works.
Sorry, I'm kind of doing 3 things at once here. What was the question for me?
They want to get some information on how the process works around awarding this bid based on the hometown factor. So if you want to educate them on the Canadian Free Trade Agreement
So generally the words when it comes to contracting publicly is the lowest compliant bid. It doesn't matter how close your zip code is or your address is. I don't know what it means if council wants to award to a contractor that isn't lowest compliant, but I do know that the low compliant bid will object. So I don't know what to tell you because I'm not a lawyer with respect to this stuff. I execute contracts, I don't write them for the most part. But that would be my cautionary note.
If I may, to council as a whole. In these circumstances, it's entirely possible if the municipality doesn't follow its tender documents, which I believe in this case Greg was saying starts with lowest compliant bid, you could be sued by the person who is passed over because they legitimately won the tender, and you could be sued for the full value of the contract that they did not win by illegally meeting all the requirements, which included lowering their price, right, taking on more risk themselves. Tenders are tricky things. Tenders are specific, and once you issue it, it's your half of a contract that goes out into the world, and if you break that and then give it to somebody else because of their localism, you're in breach of an offer that you put out under the terms and conditions associated with your tender. So it can get political, and we love Ruby Rock, and we love their contribution to the community, and we're proud to have them as a member in the community. But the bottom line is the taxpayers had us put out a tender, and it's for lowest compliant. That's kind of the flavor here. And after all the scoring was done, Border won the tender, and the tender award should probably go to Border if you don't want to have challenges from other contractors as well.
No, I tend to agree. I was fairly confident that I knew the answer. I just wanted to hear the more correct answer from you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. Kurt, do you have something more to add?
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. It was an idea. I don't know the legalities of it, but you're probably absolutely right. When it's tendered and there's rules written in it, I was more curious, and the question needed to be answered, so it has been. Thank you.
Well, value in bringing it forward, Kurt. Thanks. Appreciate it. Sure. I guess at this point I'll ask for a motion then, please. Yep, go ahead, Arlen. Thank you.
I motion council award the 2026 Roadworks contract to Border Paving Limited for a total of $354,014.28.
Excellent, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. That takes us on to section 9, council reports. I believe we have one, which is from Mountain View Senior Housing. Do you want to add any commentary to the report that you submitted? Oh, it's from you, sir. Sorry, pardon me. Forgetting my council assignments.
Yeah, more or less as presented. I'll only comment that I really appreciated when MVSH reached out to coordinate a building tour with the entire board. It's very difficult to have an understanding of senior housing if you haven't spent a lot of time in it, which I haven't. So getting to tour many facilities and meet some of the people living there was vastly helpful. So I appreciated that.
Excellent. Thanks, Will. I had a great conversation with the CEO a few days ago. Very engaging. They have some concerns about capacity down the road, and said they may want to come and talk to us about stuff like that down the road. So I'm sure there will be further conversations with that organization. Thanks again for the report. Can I get a motion for that, please? Oh, sorry. Did you have a comment, Norm?
I have a councillor, just on verbal.
Oh, verbal. Okay, sorry. My apologies.
Is that okay?
Yeah, normally you tell me ahead of time. Sorry.
Sure, this isn't bikini area, is it?
The P word, yeah. I just wanted to mention at the recent Women in Business Luncheon, it was great to celebrate women, both past and present, who've accomplished great things. And also the engagement workshops so far have been well received, and we have one more to go. Looking forward to it, and I'm sure glad for the attendance that's going on there.
I'll maybe add quickly on the Women in Business Awards, that it was great to share with some of the administrative staff from the town, seeing some of the brilliant women that we get to work with on a weekly basis, get out and get to do something with us that's not council related necessarily, and in a little bit more of a social atmosphere was nice. So thank you very much for coming out and joining us. I guess now I'll ask for that motion, sorry. Bob, yeah, you good? Sure.
I move to accept the March 10th, 2026 council reports as information.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, council reports. Don't believe we had any correspondence, right? No. Okay, perfect. That takes us to question period. So I will open up the floor to questions from the gallery.
Hello, council members.
State your name.
Mike Crampton speaking. Council members, administration, community members, my name is Mike Crampton. I've lived in Disbury here for nearly 17 years. I've raised and am raising my 4 children here with my wife of nearly 20 years. Sorry, we just had our 20th anniversary. Don't tell her I messed that up. I've been involved with many initiatives over the years in town, including president of the Mountain View Art Society, the Chamber of Commerce, and as chair of the Disbury Economic Development Advisory Committee, to name just a few. We are active and have been active in this community. Thank you for allowing me a brief moment to speak. The vote on the quote-unquote neutrality bylaw tonight is very disappointing to see. Thank you to those of you who voted no to this proposed bylaw. Such a contentious piece of legislation should not pass through without great scrutiny. To those of you who voted yes, I had hoped that when the council members saw the incredible turnout of people last night and read the numerous emails sent by residents in opposition to this bylaw, you might reconsider passing these readings tonight. It's important for council to remember that you've been elected to represent all Disburians, not just those in your inner social circles. All Disburians includes people from marginalized groups, such as LGBTQ, who have been historically marginalized at higher risk, and as such, sometimes paint rainbow crosswalks to show that they exist and should exist. Even today, still being targeted. Many youth are unable to safely come out, and in fact, members of this group approximately 5 times more likely to have suicidal thoughts than the general population. A community that prides itself on being welcoming and open should not be afraid to show support for marginalized groups. Supporting the LGBT community with a pride crosswalk that, for the record, doesn't exist and hasn't even been asked for, does not diminish any other group. Just like how supporting our veterans with the banners does not diminish those of us who didn't go to war, or supporting men's health initiatives like Ride for Dad does not diminish the women in our community. This proposed bylaw would be a mistake and distracts from the important work that council should be focusing on, like developing new housing options, encouraging new commercial development, managing our aging infrastructure, and providing top-notch recreational and creative facilities. This is the work that council was elected to do, not to step into a culture war with a bylaw that claims neutrality while effectively targeting marginalized communities. I hope that those of you who voted yes to this first reading and second will listen to what your community is telling you and reconsider your position for the next vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, appreciate it. Give you the slightly bad news, this was on camera, so your wife's gonna be aware to get the anniversary on, I apologize.
Yeah, it happens.
I welcome anyone else in the gallery that wanted to speak, come on up at this time. Thank you, and welcome.
Thank you. My name is Julian Ross. I don't know if I have to give my address or anything like that, but I do live in Disbury. I'm here and I know that the gentleman who presented the sterling rock and whatnot, there may be some people in the crowd that don't understand what the dickens we're talking about, so I took it upon myself to kind of explain it. So my name is Julian Ross. I used to figure skate, play volleyball, basketball, golf, and curl. I can't do that anymore. I'm 77 years old. I have rods and pins in my spine. I can't crouch, I can't run, I can hardly walk. But I can curl, and I can stick curl. Thanks to the forward thinking of an individual who created this stick. It is now a recognized sport thanks to the founders and creators and champions of the sport of stick curling, which started here in Didsbury, but now this lowly but significant stick is worldwide, used by able-bodied, wheelchair, and old women and old men, and the old woman is myself. This sport has created camaraderie, initiates and creates exercise, initiates friendly competition, creates friendships, is Canada-wide and I suspect worldwide for wheelchair and like-minded athletes. Now, Olympic status. Gets people out with disabilities and is recognized and endorsed by Russ Howard, who we know is a world-renowned curler. In 2005, New Brunswick hosted the first stick curling championship thanks to a Didsburyan who created it. This has put Didsbury on the map. Russ Howard is a champion of curling himself, and he supported the sport as a new sport. For me, as a senior with various inabilities physically, this has been, for me, a sport that has contributed to my mental and physical health and well-being. Let's be proud of this sport, stick curling. Let's honor the Didsburyan who championed the ingenuity of a stick adapted to fit a curling rock handle that has created so much interest in like-minded people who no longer can plant their foot in a squat position in the hack, but can still be competitive, obtain a method of exercise, well-being, physical, mental, post-game gatherings for a coffee and other forms of beverages gathered together around the table in a friendly and engaging manner for a post-game chatter and commentary, especially for this 77-year-old woman who in the winter months has a physical and social event to look forward to. At my age and physical health and mental health, with competitors and friends who are away to I'm sorry, I haven't got the right glasses on, for a way that we can do winter events together. I totally think that we should and must honor that individual with the memorial icon for this individual who hailed from Didsbury, Alberta, and with the simple adapted stick which brought so much fun and enthusiasm for hundreds of thousands of folks. Please honor and recognize this individual with the well-deserved honor and in whichever well-deserved manner, which I understand, an item that has already been designed and awaiting memorialization in an honored location. Put Didsbury on the curling map. Please allow this monument to be placed on your property here in Didsbury. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I can share your pain of having broken on glasses because I often have to travel with multiple pairs, so no harm, no foul.
Hi, I'm Fred Van Vliet in Didsbury. It's been a while since I've been here. Some of you know me well, others are new. It's a slam dunk to me that there should be a recognition of this great curling thing. I've never been involved with it, so as a person who doesn't know anything about it, I would still say it's heartwarming for the town. I just would really ask that it be looked at carefully for the size of it that was proposed, so that it's proportionate with the municipal infrastructure or fabric of the everything that's there. So that's my comment on that.
in terms of the paving contract and the hometown situation. I've been involved in some large contract evaluations where it really depends on how you score them. That's objective or subjective, and the system that you use to score them makes a huge difference. So I'm happy that you picked Border Paving because I happen to know their reputation, and I think that's money well spent. Just a comment if it ever comes up again. I do appreciate your professional approach here towards discussing the volatile issue. Everybody's dancing around what it means to have a neutral neighborhood type of standard because it's a very volatile issue. We've had shootings by people who felt that they were unable to contain themselves over this territory. So the fact that you've handled it rationally and professionally, for those who aren't in favor of it, I would suggest that we give some oxygen to the mental health issues that are involved, because you can't just deny the fact that there's problems with this pushing into the political realm. I think as a community, we can all really gather around all of our issues and have a good, happy outcome. So thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Any other comments or questions from the gallery? Bill.
Bill Windsor, and I am a resident of Disbury for, 35 years or something like that. I won't try to talk about my anniversary because it's not anywhere close.
And you're recording.
And I'm recording. In terms of the bylaw in question tonight, I think that probably what I'm seeing is that council is absolving themselves of the responsibility of listening and hearing to special interest groups within the community. And I don't think that's your role. I think that there are probably other areas, other bylaws that could be amended to accommodate what you want to do with these two items that are in this bylaw, and I don't think that the complications associated with this are being looked at realistically at this point. I also believe that you have created division not only on council, but within the community that was completely unnecessary. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that, Bill. I'd like to add something, though, if you don't mind. I hadn't had a chance, and I meant to make it part of what I said during the motion on this, but I'm very proud of the council members that chose to take a stand and not vote with council in favor of this, because it takes courage to stand your ground and to have a moral guiding compass that you believe in and not succumb to any perceived peer pressure or anything like that. So I'm very proud of the three gentlemen that chose to not vote in favor of this, because that was what their conscience told them. I don't see it as dividing us, though. We're still, I think, a united council. We are not going to align on every decision that's ever made in this room, 100%, and nor would I expect it. I think that would be unrealistic. And if anybody ever voted anything other than their conscience, I'd be disappointed. So I want to thank all three of you gentlemen for everything today, and not to detract anything from your comments, Bill, but I just felt that a divided council was a little unfair. So thanks very much. Any other questions, Bill?
JP Foster. The public space neutrality bylaw presented for the first time in public tonight and passed through first and second readings. is frankly a shameful display of wasteful spending through discussions over the past several months, held in private, outside of public view, of government-led repression, overreach, decision-making, and to be honest, cowardice on the part of this council as a whole. Let us be very clear. This bylaw, like others presented in other jurisdictions throughout Canada, especially in Alberta, is a thinly veiled attack on the 2S LGBTQ community and those members of our community. It is enforced exclusion of town-sanctioned expressions of acceptance and embrace. You can say that targets may also include Indigenous flags, flags of neighboring counties, municipalities, flags of other nations, for whatever reason. But all indications from what I am hearing tonight, from what I have heard over the past several days since this became public, suggest that the primary aim and the goal of the voices requesting and pushing this legislation is the preclusion of pride. This bylaw is targeting my family and the families of people in this room. The use of terms like equality and neutrality within this context is heavily coded. It builds and perpetuates a false narrative that a celebration of plurality means elevating, and I put this in air quotes for the record, means elevating special interest groups over the rights of others, and it does not. Non-specific messaging via visible displays broadcast symbols of recognition and of community. It signals to marginalized peoples, their allies, and their peers a sense of belonging and welcome. Moderation and limitation of cultural vibrance through legislative action breeds stagnation and cultural decay. And it is unacceptable to take that approach. I urge council, in the strongest possible terms, not to move forward through future reading with this bylaw.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions from the gallery? Okay. Well, thank everybody that came up tonight. I appreciate the feedback that you've given council. That concludes question period. That will take us to item 12. So I will ask for a motion on that, please.
I move that council move to closed session.
7:19.
7:19.
Thank you, Kurt. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion is carried. Thank you.